What's up? This is your girl T. As a black woman in her 30s, I'm constantly trying to figure out life. But the one time of the week where it all seems to come together is on Sundays. Yeah, that's right. When I talk with my girls at brunch over a glass of champagne. I created this podcast to bring good vibes and open dialogue about various topics from mental health, relationships, personal development, the workspace, to the bubbly that happened over the weekend. Sundays are a time for celebration, rest, and reflection. So welcome to Champagne Sunday. Grab a glass, pop a bottle, and get ready to pour it up. Champagne Sunday is pleased to provide you with social media content for your personal education and informational purposes. Reliance on any information provided by Champagne Sunday or by any person or professional appearing on this podcast is solely at your own risk. Hey, welcome back to Champagne Sunday. It's your girl T, and I have a special episode. I am so excited because I got a special guest. Special guest, can you please introduce yourself? Let the people know who you are.
What's up, everybody? It's Jeremy, aka J Moon, here on
Hey.
the Champagne Sunday podcast, where all my champagne sippers at.
Hey, woo, 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 brr, brr, brr. They're in the house. Oh, Jeremy, I'm so glad that you are on this podcast today. So tell the people a little bit
Yeah.
about your background, like about being an author. So I guess I can, just you can go into it and I can kind of chime in. But let the people know who you
Okay.
are. Give them a
Okay.
little taste of you, J Moon.
Okay. I'm Jeremy, aka J Moon. I'm from the country, good old South Carolina.
Hey, Carolina.
Growing up, I always loved, fantasy shows, Charmed, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, monsters, vampires, all that good stuff. But we never saw no black people in them. And so
Facts.
that was my inspiration for becoming an author because I always wanted to see us in these same medias because we watch Game of Thrones and we make it better on Twitter, them Thrones. We watch, Charmed and Buffy. We watch all that stuff and
Mm-hmm.
like Twitter, we carry it. So I wanted to do something for the culture, show love to my people, and do it in a fantastical yet relatable way.
Yeah,
So that's what inspired me.
I love that. Representation matters for sure. And I think that's a good point when you bring up, because when I think about like the things that I like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, or I think about
Mhm,
watching The Craft, like that was
mhm,
something I really like. There sometimes were maybe like the token black person, but never the
mhm.
person that had the
We,
role, the main character
yeah,
role, main character
yeah.
energy. So it is great to have read this book. So I read the first one and I couldn't wait for the second one to come out. So I'm so glad to get into it. But before we do, we usually talk about like what are we sipping on today. Now I saw you drinking
Mm.
something. I don't know if it was alcohol, but what you over there sipping on in that nice little fancy glass of yours? What you got?
Tonight I'm sipping on just H2O because
H2O.
that's all in my cup. Everything else is just life and blessings.
Now that's a nice ass. Well, I got those cups too, but that's a nice cut to be drinking.
Come on,
Your water in. Just to do a
what's
little
in your cup?
fancy water to go. But we're gonna cheers anyway. I'm drinking, a little Riesling. I got it, a little 6 ounces of Riesling right now. No champagne, but cheers, Taylor. Cheers, bigs up.
Oh,
Thanks
let's
for joining
go.
the show. Hey.
I'm happy to be here. First of all, let me say
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy to be here because I remember when you were thinking about starting a podcast, you was like, I want to do a podcast. I want to do this. I want to do that. And look at you. You've done
Look at
it.
now.
Look at us
Thank you.
now. Come
You
on.
you know what? Okay, so since we thinking about this, because I feel like that's the greatest thing about friendship when you watch your friends grow in so many different
Hmm.
ways. And I can say the same thing about you. Like I remember getting your books when we were in grad or not grad school, but undergrad. And
Yeah.
like you had like so Jeremy used to have like these binders and he would
Yes.
like type out his stories, print them out, and then put them in plastic slip covers and put them in these little
Hmm.
binders. And we used to sit and like read his stories, and I used to pass them on the tray, and we would like figure it
Hmm.
out. And my favorite, this one has not been released, but I'm still waiting on what is it? The Man in the Suit,
The secret behind the
the
suit.
Secret Behind the Suit. That was a classic. I feel like I read that one twice because that was a really good one.
So funny, I've been writing ever since high school, and it just like you said, like my best friend, she was my editor,
Hmm.
and that's exactly what we used to do. She used to print it out because her father was a school teacher, and she
Okay.
would go to
She
his
had to
office
hook up with
and he had
schools.
to hook up, yeah, and she would edit it for me, and then that's how I used to do. We used to put it in a binder, and I used to pass it out. People used to read it. I think I started like what junior or senior year, and I
Okay.
wrote like 3 books in high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I don't remember. Because I just remember like we had them in undergrad. So that's even crazy that it was like in high school that you was writing, and then you continue to grow and grow, and then here you are like a publisher with a
Come
full
on.
book. Like, and
For the
you
people
see,
who can't see, it's a Bible.
it's a Bible,
It's
and you
thick.
can see, and you it is thick, and also you can see my ass was really read. Look how bent up it is.
Listen, come on. Looking like a public library school book.
I remember reading this book. No, this one was big. It was like my little ADHD kicked in. I was like, oh my God. But I stuck with it though, and I got it done.
I appreciate you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome. You're
much.
welcome. Okay, so actually, the bubbly. So we also have a portion where we do like an inspirational quote or a bubbly on Champagne Sunday, and the bubbly actually comes from, and we didn't even shout out the book's name right now. So today's book, if you don't know, is Clairvoyant, and this is the Voodoo Vixens. This is part two, the second of the
Part
installment,
two.
part two. And I'm going to read a quote that I really like. And I felt it. And I was like, oh, okay, I like this quote. So this is about to be the
Hopefully,
bubbly today. So you try to figure
hopefully it
out.
came from me.
I don't know. You can see. I don't know where it came
Okay.
from. It came from you. All
Okay.
right. So this is from one of the characters, Amina. So Amina in the book is a very spicy, full of life character. She's very like
Yes.
risque. You know,
Yes.
she just does what she wants to do and doesn't think twice about it. And so
Okay.
when she was giving kind of like her prayer or her like, what she wanted in
Mm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
I really felt with this. And so Amina said, I want my seat at the table. I want all my sisters with me. Nothing but success, no stress, good sex, and happiness. Can I get a amen? And I was like, okay,
Amen.
amen.
That did come from me. Come on.
I would hope it came from you. but but no, you did have a lot of I think cultural like scripts or things that we say in the culture that would like stood out. I saw some things
Hmm.
from like waiting to exhale. They were just like different sayings that black people say in our culture. So I get what you're saying. But that one I really liked and that resonated. I was like, okay, no
Thank
stress, no
you.
stress. That was good. That was good. So
That was
that is our
actually
bubbly for today.
one of my favorite scenes to kind of write. It was kind of like kind of like all have their moment to like talk to the ancestors or talk to their God and just speak
Hmm.
out into the universe on what they want or what they're looking for. So I
Hmm.
really like that part in the book.
Yeah, I like that. I really did like that. That stuck out to me. I was like, okay, I had to to my little highlight. I had to highlight that one. I was like, that was good. But for people who don't know, like, let's talk a little bit about the basis of the book. So, what the book is about, the characters, who are the main characters in the book, and what the book is about. Can you give us like a little
Okay.
summary? Yeah.
Okay, just to give you a quick summary, my fans and readers, the book we're talking about now is Clairvoyant, which is book two in the series. The first book is called Conjure. They're both on Amazon. You can get them. If you got Kindle Unlimited, baby, just download. Run to your Kindle app now. That's your
Go get it
cue.
now.
Go
Better go
get
get
it
you one of
now.
these.
You better go get you one of these. It's a book. But my readers, they describe the whole Conjure and Clairvoyant series as charm meets wait to exhale. You have four black sisters. They are descendants of Marie Laveau, the famous world voodoo queen witch, and they
Mhm.
are her descendants, and they are called the heirs because they're the heir of her legacy of helping black people with their gifts, their powers. And so I want each sister to be different. They're
Okay.
different ages. They look different. Their personalities are different. You have the oldest sister, Patrice, aka Peaches. I call her the Michelle Obama black woman. She is,
Yeah, she
the
is.
boss lady.
She
She is the
is.
businesswoman.
Hmm.
She's the oldest sister. She's the wise sister. She's the one that takes care of everyone except herself.
Hmm. Yeah. Self
So
care. Yeah, she is. Hmm. Hmm.
that's Patrice, aka Peaches. The second oldest sister is Amina. Amina is She's the firecracker. She's the shady sister. She's the sister that is gonna say how she mean it. She don't care who feelings she hurt. She
Mm-hmm.
gonna tell you what's on her mind. She is in my head. She's one of the city girls. I really feel like her and Michaela, the youngest sister, they're like the city girls in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the vixen. She
Okay.
is the sex symbol. She's the Instagram model. She's this girl that, this woman that, sometimes, the educated and business black woman most times wouldn't tend to see eye to eye with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a meaning. That kind of explains a little bit of her friction with Patrice. Patrice
Right.
was, always the good sister. Amina kind of did things her own way.
Mm-hmm.
And looks wise, she's all of them they're like brown skin, but she has the darkest skin.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of shapes how she was raised, how she was growing up. She had a different experience
Okay.
growing
My
up
sisters.
compared to her different sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do that because that's very important. You can be raised in the same household as someone, but you can have a very different experience.
Facts.
And I
Yeah.
think you get that from each sister. They all have different experiences growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the middle sister, Yolanda.
Okay,
She,
Yolanda.
she's kind of the main character of this story. She is. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Amina's power, she can conjure storms.
Okay.
Patrice's power, she moves things with her mind and she throws fire. Yolanda, the middle sister, she is clairvoyant. She's psychic. She's sensitive. She's emotional. She's nerdy. She's motherly. She's the glue that holds the sisters together. She's the peace loving middle sister.
Mm-hmm.
And most of this book centers around her finding her voice,
Right.
finding her power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, everybody so far that really reads that really resonates with them, finding who you are and
Facts.
walking in that truth. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while for a lot of people. Then you have Michaela, who is the youngest sister, and she's the sister. She's too smart for her own damn good. She's too smart. She always got something to say. In my head, I also picture them as the Braxton sisters. So if like Patrice was Tony, Michaela would be Tamar. And
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
and she's the
okay.
one that always got something to say. She's
Mm-hmm.
outspoken
Mm-hmm.
as well. And her power, she can walk through walls, but she can also change her body density to be tough as armor. So she can almost like bulletproof. She has armor. And
I didn't know she hasn't stepped into that power yet, has she?
kind of, sort of, not
Kind of,
really.
sort of,
She's more
not
so
really
the
yet.
still walking, yeah, walking
Okay,
through walls. But yeah,
okay,
she's still at the end of the first book, you kind of see her do a little more with that because she becomes like super strong when she puts on this armor. And the
okay.
whole armor is kind of like to protect who she really is. She's very mouthy, she's very sassy, but on
Mm-hmm.
the inside, she's still very soft.
Right. Mm-hmm. A hard
Mhm.
exterior. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hard exterior, jello on the inside. So
Right.
these four sisters. They're living in modern day Atlanta. They're living life. They're walking into their powers. I think what I love about writing these stories is it takes some of our everyday trials and tribulations,
Mm-hmm.
dating, paying bills, working,
Facts. Yeah.
all of that stuff, and they kind of put
Relationship.
like a relationships and put a fantastical spin on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what, people really enjoy. They're like, oh, I feel like you're writing my story because I just
Right.
really, see myself in these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely true because you made all of the sisters so diverse, and I think that's like the gem of it all. That someone probably can see themselves in that, or can even relate and say, "Oh, this is what my sisters were like." Or I
Hmm.
was like of darker skin, and I felt like I was treated differently in
Hmm.
the family, or I had to do things this way, or being the younger sister, or being, and even I really do like that this one resonated with like Yolanda because I think a lot of times with her like coming into her confidence. So even though she's like
Hmm.
the peacemaker and she's the glue, I think a lot of times she has a lot of self-doubt about who she
Yeah.
is. And sometimes I think about it like imposter syndrome of sometimes you feeling like you're undeserving of your gifts or your achievements or
Hmm.
that they're not really yours or you didn't really deserve them even if you're walking in it. And I feel
Yeah.
like throughout this book, Yolanda was questioning her gifts, but she was continuing to be put to the test and given opportunities to challenge herself and do the work. But I think that she still was like, you know, even when you and with imposter syndrome, even when you achieve something, you like, and she does something great and she did it, she's still like, well, how can I do
Yeah.
this again? Or is it,
Yeah.
you know, was that just luck or
Was
how
it
did
a
this
fluke?
happen?
Yeah.
Right. You
Yeah.
know,
Exactly.
and I feel like she was going through that the entire book. But she finally kind of towards the end, I think got, and I think it definitely came with a part in the book where she met herself, like her older version of herself. And I think that was such a reflective moment for her. Because a lot of times we can, and I guess if you think religiously, right, that to have faith and to feel like, you know, you're on the right path and that you'll eventually get to where you're going. But a lot of times we still question it. And so for
Yeah.
her to kind of see that, I think it kind of propelled her faith and be like, oh, I am on the right path. I am doing the right things. So yeah, I really like that aspect of the character with Yolanda for sure.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about that. That was actually one of my favorite things to write because it's one of those we're writing the book. Sometimes I think about the end
Mm-hmm.
more so. If I think about the beginning, but I think about the end. Where do I want to end up? How do I want to get there?
Right.
And with her at the end of the book, she has this conversation with an older version of herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things. Sometimes you got to encourage yourself.
Facts. That is true. You know what? I didn't even think about it that way because not even thinking like it's like not, like it's just you. It's you
Yeah.
encouraging yourself. Like yeah, sometimes you gotta encourage yourself. Yeah.
And then, like I said, walking into confidence, figuring out who you are. I think a lot of us, if we could talk to a younger version of ourselves, 10 years older, 20 years older, like, look, you over here stressing
Over these small
about,
things.
about these small things. You're going to
Yeah.
be all right. You just got to do what you got to do and you got to have confidence in it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that would, I think that would, make everybody's life better if they just knew, like, okay, it's
I'm
going to work out.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just trust
Yeah.
the system.
Just trust it. But yeah, I think that really definitely helped her step into herself. And even though, and I liked it too because the sisters, even though you look at it, right, you're like Yolanda is, not Yolanda, but Patrice is the main sister, the older one who's the
Hmm.
boss, who's like in charge, who usually
Hmm.
who seems like she has it all together, right, and has everything
Yeah.
together. And so, but it's magic in the fact, and I think a saying that's always like sisters that stay together, or sisters that is
That's
it,
the time. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Sisters that stay together, stay
stay
together. Come
together, right?
on.
Yeah. So then it's the fact that them together is stronger. Like they're amazing individually, but together as a
Hmm.
collective, they're even more powerful. And even though, again, Patrice is like the main sister, Yolanda got a chance to kind of shine through this
Yeah.
and show like her powers and how wonderful she is. So it doesn't, no one's upstaging anybody. Everybody is has their is perfect in their own right. And I think that's
Yeah.
sometimes how it is when you're thinking about collaborating with others or being around other Black men and women who are also
Yes.
successful. Like it's not a competition, just
Yeah.
everybody is
Has their role, has their
has
part
their
to play.
role, has their part to play. Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because specifically the first book, I asked people what did they want to see, and they said they wanted to see more Yolanda. And so
Okay.
that kind of set the stage for how I created this book. I was like, well, if Yolanda's going to step up,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna need to have Patrice to step down or take a back seat, and that's where we
Mm-hmm.
got the whole vacation, kind of
Okay, we're
side
gonna
plot.
get into that. Vacation was a lot. We're gonna get into the vacation
Okay.
because what you don't know, like this book is definitely like a fantasy piece, but it has also some real good drama tea,
Come
some
on.
like and very much to the culture of like the way that they speak, the things that they talk about, like they have little things and it's kiki. Even just like like they have an aunt and the
Yes.
things that the aunt say, and she's kind of nosy and dips her, she's in their business, and she's a
Hmm.
ghost in this this part, right? But she's still kind of like the annoying aunt who's always there, and that to me is like Black culture. That's culture. You always have the aunt who's
Hmm.
nosy and in the tea,
Getting on your nerves, but
getting
you
on your
you love them
nerves,
anyway.
but you love them anyways, right? So I
Hmm.
just really love that about the book, that it really combines two worlds of the fantasy and
Hmm.
witchcraft and the magic, but it also captures Black culture and just like the day
Yes.
to day and things that we go through, and just kind of it really syncs together really well.
Yes, and it makes it really believable. That's what like at first I used to be kind of I would say thrown off or like because people used to hit me up. They was like, I read Conjure and I felt like you wrote my entire life. I'm like, because you're a modern day witch, you kind of step into your powers. And it's no, because like a lot of people they really can, identify with these characters and the
Mm-hmm.
relationship. I'm glad you brought it to family because family is the I want to say that's the cornerstone of the entire series is like
Mm-hmm.
family and legacy and family history
Yeah.
realizing that so many people have come so far just to get you where you're at now,
Yeah.
and that's why I call them they are the heirs. They're the heirs to this legacy. You talk about Yolanda, not being fearful of stepping into her power, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that kind of motivated her was, the memory of her grandmother. Her
Mm-hmm.
grandmother was this great witch. Her grandmother helped so many people,
Mm-hmm.
and she knew that that was a part of her legacy, and she, had to step into that legacy.
Right. I do like that too because it thinks about, and I think the book talked about that too. Like, we don't all have the privilege of knowing our history and our roots.
Hmm.
And I think that
Hmm.
came up with Patrice. She went to Jamaica for vacation and
Hmm.
she was meeting her
Mm.
fiance's family who knows their history, who has ancestral in Jamaica, like they know their lineage. And
Hmm.
the mom assumed that Patrice didn't know her history because she was African American. And
Correct.
Patricia was like, no, actually, I do. I know who my great 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 grandma was. And we have all of this long lineage in New Orleans and, like, all of this. And so I think it also speaks to ancestors a lot. Like you said
Yes.
about the connecting with your grandmother, family, and connecting with that and knowing who you are today because of who your family was and what they did. And even to the point where if you're not able to trace it back, there was also instances of slavery and thinking about
Hmm.
your ancestors who probably were slaves and lived on plantations. And there was some aspects of that as well. And talking about that culture and the resilience of those people and how that kind of propels other people to go forward. So
Hmm.
even that, it was just, it looked at all aspects, I think, of ancestry and lineage and hair. It was different because even though the sisters are the epitome, like the focus of the book, it also kind of
Hmm.
showed you the lineage of other people who may be a little different, but also how their ancestral history goes back to.
Yes, and the reason why that was important is because another another one of my big inspirations for writing this book was my aunt Hallie. Hopefully, I'm
Okay.
gonna talk about this without getting too emotional.
Oh, okay.
My aunt Hallie, she's one of the first people that introduced me to fantasy books. She was a school teacher. She used to give me all these, the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe books. All her books from her classroom, she used to give them to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she read my first book. She was a big fan, and like literally, as she was battling breast cancer, for the last 2 years, every day, every month, she would be like, "Where's the book? When's the next book? When's it coming out? Where's my book? When's it coming out?" And just to talk about family history and legacy. My grandfather, where we grow up. I'm down the street from my aunt and my grandmother
Mm-hmm.
and two of my other aunts. The land that we live on was bought by my great great grandfather.
Okay.
He couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he bought the land by just marking an X on it.
Wow.
And we're still living on that land.
Oh,
And
amazing. I didn't know that. Wow.
yeah. And one of the things my aunt started to do when she retired was research our family history and
Mm-hmm.
legacy and realizing that we're from West Africa, the coast of Ghana. And she's also been writing and working on a book. She's a farmer. My great grandfather was a farmer, and that's her way of tributing his legacy. She's been
Mm-hmm.
working on a book that kind of talks about her journey and tracing family legacy. And so she really played a big part in me, writing this book as
Yeah.
well.
That's awesome. I didn't know that story. That's like a really great story, and in a way to also continue your legacy. Because now
Hmm.
that you said that, that's a lot of themes again that plays in the book, and you dedicated that to your aunt. So I'm pretty sure she's really
Hmm.
proud of you.
She
And
cried.
yeah, I know she's really proud
Hmm.
of you. Oh, because it was a
Yeah.
really good tribute that was your aunt
Hmm.
in the book. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and
yeah.
the other thing, people were asking me, who is Hallie? What is she? One of their sisters? Is she
Uh-huh.
kindred to them? And I was like, that's my aunt. My aunt's name is Hallie.
Yeah, I
My
didn't.
uncle is William. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense now because I was trying to piece it together too, like how. So I thought so when I was reading the book, right, and so this book too, each chapter is kind of honestly could be a mini book. Like honestly, like it's like to me, it's like three books in one. It could be,
Hmm.
and so when I got to the part about about the manor and then Boykin
Hmm.
Manor, and then they were talking about like the historical implications, all the things that happened there, and how it's haunted and the plantation, and then you connected it back to Yolanda. I was like, oh, that's how it ties together. But then
Hmm.
also too thinking about there was so much detail of a lot, and I was like, Jeremy was really right because this was so much detail in just that one chapter about Aunt Hallie, and then like what they went through on the plantation, and just like their culture and the people and the name. Like it was so much
Oh,
detail
good.
in that.
Mm.
Yeah, and so again, it was like to me another world and another story in itself that connected to present day because that was like it talked about the past and connected it to two different storylines in the future. So that was really really good how it all synced together because at first and then when you're reading you're like how is this connected because I was like what
Hmm.
is this connected. I was
Where
a
we
little
going?
confused. Yeah,
What's
where are we
going
going?
on?
I was kind of
Hmm.
confused by like the storylines, but then by the time you continue to read it all like seems together, and so that was really really good how it all connected. But I didn't know
So
that
the
was your aunt Holly. That's
Yeah,
dope.
that she was a
Yeah.
big inspiration. And then just talking about that with how the book is broken down. One of my favorite writers is Stephen King.
Okay.
And just like you said with the details, Stephen King, every character in his book, he knows where they grow up, their favorite song, their
Mm-hmm.
background history. He can literally give you a whole book for every character in his story.
Right.
And I was reading this on one book called The Institution, and it's about these kids who have psychic powers, and they're locked up in this institution, and this sheriff helps them escape. The
Kind of
book
like
is
is
meant
it based off of Stranger Things?
a little bit,
Okay.
yeah, kind of a little bit, but yes, it's like yeah, but it's all the kids. It's more so based on the kids. They're locked up there,
Okay.
and so, like I said, at the end of the book, the sheriff he saves the kids and he helps them get away. But when you read the book, the first 30 chapters is about this sheriff. He used to be a janitor. He used to live in Texas, and then he became a sheriff, and then he started working the night shift. And it's like the same thing you said. It's like,
Mhm.
where is we going? Where are we going with
Where are we
this?
going? Yeah.
And it's what it did is was it introduced you to the sheriff, then he introduced you to the kid, and then the third act of the book,
It
it
puts it
all came
together.
together.
Yeah.
And that's why
That's
I
what
kind
it
of like
was.
with yeah,
Mhm.
with this book, I wanted to be like, in the words of Tisha Campbell, it's the journey. I wanted to be a journey.
It was a journey. Yeah. It was a
And
good
like,
writing.
I
Yeah.
know people, they wanted to catch up with the sisters first,
Mm-hmm.
but the people who read the first book, so I was like, the first half, this is the sisters, this is
Mm-hmm.
where they're at now.
Yeah.
But book two was focusing on the family.
Okay.
Um, I know a lot of people who stumble into my books. They don't read horror. They
Mm-hmm.
might read urban fiction. They might read Zane and Eric Jerome Dickey. So this
But
is
it's a good tie-in.
yeah. This
Mm-hmm.
is but what I wanted to do is if you don't like horror, you don't want like haunted house books or stories. I was like, I'm gonna give you characters that are so realistic and
Mm-hmm.
like you know these people that okay, I got to figure out what's going on. I got to figure out how is this family going to make it, and this is where Latoya and Kevin from Chicago they moved down from Chicago to Savannah, Georgia.
Yep.
They about to live it up,
They
baby.
got this new home. They
They
ready
got a
for
new
it.
home.
They about to break into some cash.
Okay. And they thought they living it up. No, baby, your house is haunted.
Haunted. It is haunted. It is haunted. And it was now that was a journey to get to the money. That's when you like, was it worth it?
Was it worth it?
Because they
Was it
went
worth it?
through a lot. And so if and when you read the book, this is all spoiler alerts, but they
Hmm.
had the premise was that they inherited a house in which they had to stay in for a certain amount of days in order to get the
Hmm.
house, but they didn't realize at the time of the agreement that the house was haunted. So they're like, oh, I think it was like 3 months that they had to stay in the house.
Hmm.
They were like,
Yeah.
oh, 3 months, we can do
We
this.
can do that.
I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, we
I've
get
been in
like a
jail
million
longer than
dollar
that.
inheritance for
Yeah,
sure. And then all hell broke loose in the house.
all
So
hell broke loose. And so I was like, it was one of my favorite parts, writing the whole haunted house experience. Especially, like I said, I wanted them to be, characters that we know.
hmm
So, sidebar, you didn't know this, but Trey's best friend Jackie,
hmm
she was my inspiration for Latoya because I remember like Trey, we used to always talk about her and
hmm
her kids, Anakin, and I kind of made up the other name. I was like, oh,
Ah,
and he's always would tell me
oh,
about her that she was a dreamer.
uh-huh.
Sometimes she did, she wasn't that good with money, but she had big dreams. She
hmm
had big aspirations, and I was like,
hmm
that's the character I want to
That was
write in
the
the
mom.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
that's the
wanted a
mom.
fresh start. She wanted a fresh
Hmm.
start. She wanted a new beginning. She was in a good relationship. She had her
Hmm.
kids were not perfect, but they were good, and yeah, so that makes sense. I mean, again,
Hmm.
realistic, right? And then it
Hmm.
gets a little fancy when you start bringing out like the ghosts and the horror and the ancestors, and also some African folklore was in there
Yes,
with the
Anansi.
Anasi, the spider.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of everything in there. When it came to like the haunted house, it reminded me of different themes were coming about when I thought about it, but I really liked it. And I honestly ended the chapter thinking, oh, this shit is over. But I also kind of was like, is it over? Because I was like,
Is
it kind of
it?
ended, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay, it's over. But then I was like, wait a minute, it can't be that easy. Like it didn't, and then
Hmm.
sure enough, it all came back. It revved up. But yeah, it was a lot of good themes. I think too, I'm gonna go a little bit with Michaela, and into
Hmm.
some relationship stuff. So
Okay.
when we think about like relationships, it's relationships themes. Everybody got a little relationship this I said this season, but
Yeah.
this book, this
Look, that's how I write it. I was like, it really feel like each book is like a
that
season. That's
season,
how
right?
I write it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of everybody got a little relationship, but I think Michaela's, and that's the youngest sister, hers were more
Hmm.
so of like giving people that you kind of overlook a chance, kind of like going out of your box when it comes to relationships. And she ends up falling for, she's in high school, right? So it's like a high school relationship, but it also to me had a theme of giving people that you normally wouldn't give a chance. They're nice, they treat you right, they're into you,
They're
and
good to your friends.
they're good to your friends, and they have your back, but you're like, oh, I'm not attracted, I'm over here looking at so and so who not into you.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then eventually for having a moment and realizing like, oh, I really like this person, why wasn't I into this person before?
Exactly.
So I thought that was a good theme to show that. But then Patrice, hers is a whole, it was a whole chapter of her relationship issues, a whole chapter. I think the theme that I
Mhm.
saw with Patrice is too good to be true. I think that's the thing that kept playing. Everything was like too good to be true with her.
Okay, so you say too good to be true.
That's what
I
she
would
was
say, I would say it's a little bit of tying into the book. Sometimes, okay, so the theme that I wanted to carry in Clairvoyant
saying.
was ghosts. You
Okay.
know, originally I started as just being a ghost story, with Yolanda in the haunted house. But
hmm
as I went through so many versions of this book, I realized I wanted to open it out to what are ghosts in general. They're, things that aren't physical that, oppress us. They robs us of our joy. They prevent us from getting to the happiness that we want and that we
Okay.
crave for and that we deserve. And so you have, the ghost, your typical ghost you think of haunted the house, but ghosts can also be your ex lover. It can be your past experiences. For
hmm
Patrice, it was her previous disappointment. And you kind of see that with, some of the relationships with her father. And I guess you were saying too good to be true. There was a big part of her that was just like, I like him.
hmm
This is too good to be true. I don't
Right.
deserve this.
hmm
When is the shoe gonna fall? When are things in my life gonna go bad? I'm used to things going bad. With her,
Right.
they're survivors of Hurricane Katrina. She's like, I'm used to living my life in the storm. I don't
Yeah.
know how to live anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I get that. I like how you reframe that. So like the theme is ghosts, kind of like your past is haunting you. So in a sense, like your past is haunting you, and everybody kind of had some ghosts or things haunting them. Even when I think, because I know I'm kind of thinking about everyone kind of story right now, and even when we think about Patrice's fiance, when we think about is it Lawrence? Yeah, am I
Oh,
thinking?
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo is Lorenzo.
Yeah.
She called him because she kept calling him throughout the book Lolo, and I was like, okay, nickname Lolo.
It's a nickname for me.
It was just a little pet name, Lolo. But yeah, so thinking about Lorenzo, even him having like ghosts of the past, like so I
Yeah,
see
his
that
family trauma with
his
his
family
father.
trauma and his
Yeah.
father, everybody had a ghost or something that was haunting them. And I think for Patrice, it was what mostly probably a lot of Black women probably experienced, like failed relationships over and over, failed relationships, and finally being in a relationship that is working, but still having the trauma and the
Waiting
things
for
from
the
your
shoe to
past
fall.
haunting you. I think when it comes to Mina, trying to turn over a new leaf, trying to do something different and come to, be a different person, but you still have your past mistakes and things haunting you. And, Amina is someone who's, big money, likes spinning bags, but
Okay,
realizing
with
that
a bag at,
sometimes
with a bag at.
where the bag at, but sometimes chasing the bag can get you in a lot of trouble. And so trying to
Hello?
turn over a new leaf, but again having that chase is still kind of like it's following you. So I can definitely see that. And I think even with Michaela, so thinking because she's younger, so then her mother is in what her who's her, because she's younger, so Michaela didn't really get to experience her mother, and she didn't get to experience her father. So for her it's kind of like, even though she has her older sisters, you still have that void of like, who's my mother, who was my father, what were they like? So that kind of haunting you that she didn't get that experience. So I feel like I see that dead on about ghosts and your past catching up to you and having to deal with your past. I definitely see that. Yeah.
That's what the first quote in the book from Beloved, Toni
Mm-hmm.
Morrison. Me and you have more yesterday than anybody. We need some type of tomorrow. That's why, it kind of ties in the whole essence of the book.
Mm-hmm. Got it. That
Mhm.
makes sense. That does piece it together. It really does. But yeah, let me see if I have anything. Let me because
Keep going. I'm enjoying the conversation.
I could definitely go into vacation, right? But I wanted to see because I'm thinking about going into vacation. But let me see what because I think we talked about that. Yeah. Oh no, we didn't talk about that a little bit. Okay, so we can definitely kind of go into a little bit about Amina a little bit more. So Amina, again, we said is the firecracker, and so she currently had in the first book, she in the beginning, the first book started off really good because it was like, oh, this is crazy, right?
When
So
she
Amina,
got shot.
when she got shot, so Amina started off the first book and she got shot, right? And so in this book, she actually comes face to face again with the person who shot her. And so you're thinking, of course, everybody's like, oh, you ready to fight? Like,
You about
let's
to fuck
go.
him up.
You about to fuck him up, sis. But this is your opportunity,
Yes.
And she ends up making love with them. And
Yes.
I even put in here, what is
What in the
that?
hell is going
Right.
on?
What was that? What is that quote that meme you always post? I got it. It was
Now wait one damn minute.
wait. Now wait a damn minute. That's exactly what I wrote in there. Now wait a damn minute. Cause I was like, that's not what's supposed to happen. But it reminded me so much of like when you think about trauma bonding.
Yeah.
And so when people are attached and they experience trauma, so I mean, of course, that whole like first book with Amina was trauma for her to have to be shot and all of that. And so thinking about now, she's in a cycle of physical and emotional abuse with her partner. I think she even had, was there a history of abuse with her and is it Magnum?
Yeah, Magnum.
Yeah.
No
There,
history of abuse, but it was one of those things. She wanted a fast life. He was
mm-hmm.
a drug dealer and a rapper. He kind of gave that to her.
Okay.
But, it's It's toxic relationship 101.
Yeah, it definitely
It's just
seemed.
toxic as shit.
Yeah, because it was a lot of highs and lows, and there was a periods of affection, and then periods of devaluation, and just emotional abuse. I mean, because he did.
Hmm.
He did shoot her, and then it's kind of like, you want me, babe? I got this money for you, and just kind of like, and that's what gets her, like that's motivating
Hmm.
her. But it does. I think it really did highlight like trauma bonding and just how people have a difficult time getting away from things that they know aren't good for them,
Yeah,
relationship cycles, even though they
yeah.
have these extreme highs and lows. And they also just completely avoided the conversation. Like there was no
Yeah.
conversation, and I don't think it would. Now some people might say like, it doesn't make sense, like why didn't they have a conversation? But I think it does make sense based off of their relationship, that they wouldn't even they would avoid the conversation. They would engage in the way that they did, and then go
Hmm.
straight back to talking about, well, how can we, I got this money for you, let's
Yeah,
kind of
come
get back
fuck with
into,
your boy.
yeah, like come be
Hmm.
with me. And I think it makes sense because to me it really it's like trauma, that's trauma bonding for us, like not being able to kind of, you see all the red flags, but you're not able
Hmm.
to get over there. And I
Ignore
think,
them.
yeah, and then him showing up with the bag of money to me was like love bombing. It was like the fact that he was like, "Here, I have all of this love, this flattery. You like the car." He was in the
You know you,
Maybach,
yeah,
like,
you know you like this Maybach.
yeah, like look at all of this, and
You know
she's
you a
like,
city girl. Where the
right, and
bag at? Where the bag at? It's right here, baby.
exactly, and she was just like, "Yep, I'm ready for it," and it just did not go
Let's continue to
the
talk about
way.
Amina because I really like writing her storyline.
Hmm.
Especially for this book, her trying to turn a new leaf, like you said. Um, in the first book, so I wrote all the descriptions, and it's obvious that she has the darkest skin,
Hmm.
and she's kind of perceived as the bad sister. And I've
Hmm.
read, some of the people's comments. They was like, "What is this colorism?
Oh.
What is this her experience?" And this is where it goes back to um,
Mm.
people having different experiences growing up
Mhm.
where you can, you're the darkest skinned one, you might be treated different, but other people, your other siblings, they don't necessarily see that,
Mhm.
and that kind of played into her experience. And then also with, I know some people have grown up where they have one family member where, either their mom or their aunt or somebody telling them, oh, you ain't nothing but trouble. You always gonna end up in jail. I kind of threw something like that in there too. You're gonna end up
Oh
either
yeah, that
dead or
was
in
her. That
jail.
was her fear. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
her
either
fear.
you're
Uh
gonna end
huh.
up dead or in jail. It's
Uh
like
huh.
sometimes you project that onto, children growing up that kind of like somewhat shapes who they become
Mhm.
when they grow up. And so Amina in this book, she's trying to turn over a new leaf. It's expensive being a bad bitch. Um
Especially the type that she trying to be. She like them luxury brands.
Look, listen, the chapter I wrote with her going shopping, I was like, this is really me. It's like, how do you cure depression when how do you get over depression when the thing what- that you're depressed about is causing the depression, which is shopping. So she's a material girl. She likes to shop,
Mhm.
and and how I envision her character growing. It's one of those weird things. Another one of my favorite writers is J.K. Rowling,
Mhm.
and I've always loved, in the Harry Potter books, 7 books, she had like a master plan of where she wanted to take Harry, how his journey was going to go.
Mhm.
And specifically for Amina, I envision her. I don't know if you remember the first charm, one of the sisters owned a nightclub. I envision her owning her own club, being her own boss. And
Mm.
so this book was her working in this strip club,
Mhm.
working for Gucci the Goblin
Gucci,
child,
Gucci the Goblin child.
being the hookah girl and being the bartender, and like, you know what, the 9 to 5, it ain't for me. I'm gonna do it on my own. I'm gonna make it on my own. So this was like a stop point in her journey to,
Yeah. Can you say something? So earlier you just said that it's hard when the thing that's causing you to be depressed is your coping strategy. Like she was coping through shopping, but
hmm
the reason that she's depresses because she
I
doesn't
forgot.
have money. Is
Let
that?
me look. Yeah, how did I write this? Because I wrote it. I was like, listen, when I wrote this, it touched and agreed with my own spirit. It's like, okay, whenever Amina felt depressed, she went shopping. What do
Okay.
you do if your cure for depression is causing depression?
Yes. Yes.
That's it.
That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, that is, you know what? And so that's the thing. It's kind of like, I like that because it's like engaging in unhealthy coping strategies. But
Hmm.
shopping isn't really unhealthy. But if you do it excessively, and then like
Hmm.
how you did, I think in that scene too, she was trying to use her last to buy some stuff. So it becomes a condition of like it spirals. It keeps snowballing in a sense.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's deep too. Thinking about like your coping strategies. How do you cope? And then sometimes your coping strategies can keep you in that same space that you don't want to be in, because you can't free yourself or do something differently. But I
Hmm.
do like that at the end of the book, she was talking about a business of her own, or maybe that's something that she would want to do with her sister. So who knows
Yes.
what's going to be in part 3.
Yes.
But yeah, I do see that you do have a plan for each of the characters for sure.
Yes. And just to finish with Amina, I love writing her storyline.
Hmm.
Like I said, I don't know if you got it. Some of the inspiration was the Players Club,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Hmm.
the Players Club, and like I remember when I was writing, P Valley was on TV, and I was like, a supernatural strip club. I'm like, it
That's
writes
it.
itself. So
You
we got to do it.
that was the only thing that got me. Like the strip club was, I mean, all of the supernatural stuff was like, oh, okay, they turn into werewolves, or people using powers, whatever. But
Hmm.
the strip club, supernatural strip club, definitely got me with the vampires. I was like,
Yes, the
oh my
boss
god!
lounge,
I was
the boss lounge.
like, what? I
We
was
up in
like,
the boss lounge,
I was like,
child.
did I? I was like, did I read that correctly? Like, what are they doing?
It's
That
a
was
place for vampires to come and they get their freak on, you get their freak on.
Yes, and then when they took over the place and the shit just went haywire, I was like, "Oh Lord,
What we gonna do now?
what are we gonna do now?" It was a lot. That was
So,
good. That was good scene.
another thing, you don't watch Star Wars, but the movie
Hmm.
Star Wars, the big creature Jabba the Hutt,
Uh huh.
it's like this big slug like creature.
Yeah, I know what
I
you
was
mean.
watching Star Wars and like they was like Jabba the Hutt's lair and he was smoking hookah and the little monsters they was in the back turning up. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
this ain't
they do always have that on stuff.
nothing.
I don't really watch. You're right. I don't really watch it, but when I do see clips, I do remember they do have their own little supernatural little
Yeah,
bars and stuff.
I was like,
Yeah.
this ain't nothing but Cheech and Lounge on U Street. Let me stop. Let me go ahead and put this in this book.
Pretty much. That was a good addition. Definitely good. And to see. But okay, the only thing that got me, and then we're gonna go to Patrice. The only thing
Hmm.
that got me for that was I was surprised, and I think this we saw a different side of Amina, that she cared
Hmm.
so much, because Amina said that she
Mm,
stayed at the strip club because she wanted to protect her friends who were there.
yeah.
And so that's why she stayed. But I was like, why does and I was like, why does she care so much? Why do you think why would she care so much? Because she's usually only always for herself, and like what
Hmm.
benefits her.
Yeah, I like that you pointed that out. Like, I wanted to show a different side of Amina, and
Hmm.
not only with the other strippers, with Sweet Tea. Like,
Yeah.
Sweet Tea was my favorite character. Like
Connected
in
with
my
her.
head.
Hmm.
Yeah, and she was like such a sweet girl, and like it's like you said, Amina is usually selfish, only
Hmm.
out for herself. I wanted to show a different side of her in this book. And I think with the next book, just like we got a lot of Yolanda in this book, the next book we're going to get more out of
I mean,
Amina.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. I really do like that. Because she did connect with Sweet Tea, and Sweet Tea was kind of like an underdog. She wanted to be a stripper, didn't really have it, but Amina
Hmm.
kind of took her under her wing. And Amina is like the stripper, like she got it, like she's the
Yes.
boss on the
Millions of
pole, and
followers.
millions of followers, the Instagram girl, the
Mhm.
it girl, everybody know her. What is it, the Godiva goddess or the good?
The diver goddess. That's a stripper name, baby.
So yeah, so that was good. All right, so let's get to Patrice a little bit.
Okay.
Woo, Patrice.
Yeah. That's a lot going on.
It's a lot going on. So, okay, I don't even know where to start. I just feel like Where should I start with Patrice? I really don't know where to start with Patrice. I like the vacation. I like the Jamaica feel. It felt like you was in Jamaica. It felt like you was just having a good time. I really wanted to book my trip as I was reading. Let me book my flight to Jamaica. It
It
felt
felt
really It
real.
felt real. It felt genuine. Talking about the food, I was like, "Oh, I want me some jerk chicken, some jerk pork." Like they was just going in with the vibes, the rum punches, just the scenery. You could kind of take it all in, right? And then also it was
Hmm.
luxury because Patrice's
Hmm.
fiance is rich. His family is rich. So it was given private jets, Chanel
Yes.
blankets, just rich, right? And again, so much detail about like their outfits, what they had on, the smells, like, just so you can kind of put yourself in the moment and be there. So I
Hmm.
really did like that, but I knew it wasn't gonna all last long with that. I knew it was going to be. But you know what really shocked me, I think, was kind of the twist. So there was a twist in there where Lorenzo's it was I can't remember. Is it uncle or his cousin? Lorenzo's he flipped on him.
Oh, the uncle.
The
Oh,
uncle flipped
yeah.
on him. But then it was a twist to the twist because then you find out at the end because he said he speaks to why he did what he did, right? And so as a
Hmm.
reader, you're reading, you're like, oh, that's some bullshit. You flipped, you a snitch, you did this. But then by the end, you realize, oh, why he did what
It was
he
a
did.
setup.
It was a whole setup. And so I
Hmm.
was like, that was really orchestrated well in that. I think it was good. But I did see a lot of dynamics again about um African American culture and other like West Indian and Caribbean cultures and kind of sometimes the stereotypes and not thinking that you're for family and you may be selfish. I think that's how they
Hmm.
kind of perceived Patrice. But
Hmm.
Patrice definitely stood her own in that whole chapter. She stood her own.
Yeah.
She
With
definitely
the
did.
well, just to back it up, to start it, before we got to the vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So the first, like I said, the first 10 chapters is just about the sisters where they're at with their life.
Right.
And with Patrice, I know she was stressed the fuck out. She got
Oh,
all her
okay. We're
sisters
gonna go
living
there.
with
Okay.
her.
Mm-hmm.
She got all
Mm-hmm.
her sisters living with her. Her aunt is a ghost, and she in the house too, getting on her nerves.
Mm-hmm.
And her job is getting on her nerves, and the sisters being petty. She was just stressed out, and really my inspiration for this. I love the Braxton family on Value. I don't know if you remember when Iana tried to fix their life, and Tony was like, "If y'all were my sisters, I wouldn't like y'all." She was
Yeah,
like,
I do remember that.
"She was like,
I
I
do
love
remember that.
y'all, but
Uh-huh.
sometimes y'all get on my nerves." And I was
Uh-huh.
like, "That's Patrice, where it's just like she was stressed the hell out. She was
Mm-hmm.
just stressed the hell out." And so, like I said, I know this book I wanted Yolanda to take main stage, and so I was like, I was going to do a vacation. And it could have been easy to just, oh, they went to Jamaica. Patrice, we need you to come back, leave your vacation. But I was like, no, I wanted this, to be experienced. Specifically, the whole vacation section of the book. Like, if you look at the first book, I broke it down into 4 parts. It's, the heirs, which is about the sisters, the haunting of the Boykin Manor, the whole haunted house, and the
Mm-hmm.
vacation. And the
Mm-hmm.
whole vacation section was supposed to be like a palate cleanser
Mm-hmm.
after the haunted house and all the dark stuff. You're like,
Right, right.
we're high in the skies, we're on the
Mm-hmm.
jet, we're sipping
Mm-hmm.
champagne. We
Right,
just
right.
got a rum punch. You can smell the pineapple. Like I really had a good job writing the book. Like I watched many like YouTube videos of vacation
Okay.
of just like couples going on
Vlogs.
excursions. Yeah, like it was like so many people, their birthday, their boo took them on an excursion. I was like, okay, where are they going? What are they doing? They drink the
Mm-hmm.
rum punch. This is what the hotel looks like. Oh,
Okay.
they're doing on whitewater rafting. This is how
Mm-hmm.
hot it is. I was like, I think, I wanted to put all of that, in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But
And did.
ended. But I wanted it to be more drama, and I was like, the drama has to be his family, and
Okay.
that's where I started this whole, the world of the shifters.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 5 fractions of shifters across the world. There's werewolves, there's panthers, there's bears, there's snakes, and What was the fifth one?
The dragon.
Excuse me. Yeah, and the dragons. The dragons.
Oh,
The
okay.
dragons are extinct. The dragons are
Okay,
extinct,
yeah.
but
Okay, okay.
they try to make their way back, and I wanted
Hmm.
that to be like in a weird way. I was like, this could be another book too. This could be a spin-off, and
No,
that's what I wanted
it
to
was
do.
three books. It was the
Hmm.
sisters, it was the Boykin Manor, and then it was the
Hmm.
werewolves. It was three
Hmm.
books in one.
Yeah. I was like, this. I was like, I just wanted to dip my toes. So when I was like, if I want to spin off and do more on the werewolves and the shifters, I can
Hmm.
do that. And another reason I did that because I wanted to introduce his brother, Playboy. Like Playboy in my head was a character. I was like, oh,
He was
he's a
giving Chris
bad
Brown.
brother. Listen, Chris Brown with the dreads, the bad brother.
Hmm.
You know, I was
Playful.
like
Mm.
playful. You know, he ain't shit, but he's fine as hell, and he got a nice body. So you're gonna see what he's talking about,
Hmm.
and that, and then also the family drama. Like I really liked writing his mother. I don't know, in a weird way. One of the things, again, Jamaican women, I know they don't play about their whiteness, so and I just, I knew that was going to be like a shade or dig I was going to throw in there with the mom. I don't know if you remember, the mom was like, "Oh, you're so dark" or something like that. Do you you want to
Oh wait, say that again. Mom said she
you
just.
did with the when the mom first met Patrice?
I don't remember her saying dark. I do remember her throwing shade about her cult, like her ancestry, and I remember her throwing
Hmm.
shade, and then her aunt threw shade about American women or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I got shade, but I don't think I got like the dark skin comment. I didn't get that one.
Well, they do their
But yeah.
bleaching salts over there. They
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
some colorism issues as well. And I wanted to write the mother as this very Christian woman,
Hmm.
witches. We don't do witches over here,
She was an asshole. Hmm.
yeah.
She was a bitch.
I was like, I needed, that was the bit of shade and drama I needed to inject in the book. And I
Hmm.
was like, now we're getting somewhere.
Facts. Yeah. It was a great deal of drama. But I do like that you brought it back to who Patrice is, and like you said, she was feeling stressed and overwhelmed with all her duties and things that she had to do in life. And I think that's another piece that makes it relatable because she is a black
Hmm.
woman. She's trying to do it all. She's very successful in her own right.
Hmm.
And she's kind of like the person who is stressed but perfect, like like
Hmm.
they try to have this perfect, everything is in order, everything is
Yes,
right, perfectionism,
we don't show
but
no cracks.
we don't show no cracks, but so stressed because that being perfect is not possible, and if you try to aim for it, you're going to be stressed. And so I feel like she was very much kind of last episode, before last, we were just kind of talking about like the strong black woman, right, and what that
Hmm.
is. And I feel like
Hmm.
Patrice is definitely tries to be the strong black woman, holds it together for a family, doesn't show her
Hmm.
emotions, doesn't really cry. And I think you even said that, like when she finally did break down, she's like, this is not me, I don't cry, this is the second
Yeah.
time you've had me crying, I don't do this. So that's aside from herself. She's a fixer. She's like, I gotta fix it. I don't take time to like, be in my emotions. And so I
Hmm.
think that could be relatable, but also touching on how that is also not healthy.
At
And
all.
that and I think she started to realize that on her Jamaican trip, of like, I never really have a vacation, I never really just do nothing,
Yeah.
and now it feels
I'm
good just
always
to,
working.
right, it feels good to be
Hmm.
taken care of, or for somebody else to plan and do the things, and I don't have to
Hmm.
plan. And so I think that also is another aspect of coping. Like we was talking about Amina coping, how does she cope? Patrice copes by just keep doing, and
Yeah.
then so it you see that the ways that you cope is sometimes unhealthy. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes you even resembled her stress, that it was also physically. Like I think most of the time maybe people would be getting migraines or headaches, but for
Hmm.
Patrice, she was getting her fire ring around. She was getting like these headaches or these fire rings,
Crazy headache
crazy
with
headaches,
the fire.
the fire. So yeah, so that was, I like that you touched and went back on that. That was the whole reason for her action, because at first she wasn't even gonna go on the vacation
Yeah, he
until
asked her
she
to
lost
go.
her
She like,
job. Yeah, until she lost her job, and then she just was like, fuck it, I'm a
I'm gonna
go.
go.
I'm a go. But yeah, all of the werewolf drama, were family drama, that was definitely another aspect too of thinking about meeting somebody, and
Yeah.
and
Their
be introduced to
family.
their family. And what is their
Yeah.
family like? Their family don't like you. I mean, the mom was horrible and said some mean things about Patrice, like just really mean things that were not true, especially after, and I was thinking, I was like, she saved the family and she did all of that. And I was like, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to accept her. But I'm like, you don't even accept your son. So of course you're not. Because even the
Listen,
father doesn't accept your own son. And he's done really well. So I was like, that, I guess it makes sense.
that's listen. A lot of families is like that, and
Hmm.
going back with Patrice, it's interesting. A lot of people do like her character, but they
Hmm.
don't see any of her flaws. And it's kind of like you said that she, even you kind of like wince. Like she puts on, I'm the strong sister. I take care of everybody. She's the person. She doesn't like to show cracks, and so it was
Hmm.
kind of like a thing in the first book. There's this monster that's this evil that's behind them, but she's telling her other sisters, "Oh, it's
Don't worry
nothing. It's
about
gonna
it.
be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
worry
Don't worry
about
about
it."
it. Hmm.
And even in this book, she didn't even tell them she lost her job until like,
The very
she was just
end.
like, yeah. So she was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. And I feel like it was a slip. It was kind of like, yeah, and
Yeah.
I lost my job. And it was
And they're
like,
like, what?
yeah, so she doesn't say anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a flaw. Like you supposed to
Mm,
like if you can't communicate with anyone, you're supposed to be able to communicate. And I think again,
mm,
that's another thing. You're supposed to be able to communicate with your sisters, but I feel like Patrice isn't able to communicate with Lorenzo because she's not a person to communicate. She doesn't even communicate with her closest bonds, which are her sisters. So when
that's
it came
true.
to the end and they were like, well, you didn't tell me this and I didn't expect this and you didn't prepare. And I like that they
Hmm.
finally was able to communicate at the end and kind
And
of talk
address it.
and address it, because I was like, please
Hmm.
don't end without them talking. But they did talk about it, and they realized like, oh, we weren't really talking about anything. Like, we weren't really talking about what was happening with me.
Hmm.
And Patrice was holding everything in, and Lorenzo was kind of
And
holding everything
exploded it
in,
out. Yeah.
and then it all came out, and it was like they could have been such a resource to each other through this whole process had they communicated and relied on each other. But it's that image of, I can take care of it by myself, I got it covered. Even
Hmm.
to me it was baffling that Patrice was Lorenzo's secret weapon, but he didn't even fill her in on that, and I was like,
Yeah.
come
You
on
you
now.
probably should let her know. They try to kill us out here.
I was like, oh, you just gonna give the black card and be like, here, go shopping, babe. Get
There
something
you
nice.
go.
You
Yeah,
should
because
have
that's
told.
what she like. I'm
Mhm.
over here thinking we over here about to eat some barbecue and I'm about to meet your mama.
And it's a whole gala, and then on top of that, you propose, and so it's
Yeah.
like one layer over another layer over another layer over
Hmm.
another layer. It's like, when do I have time to like take it in and
Process.
process? I don't. You're not
Yeah.
giving me time to. You're not giving me
Yeah.
time to.
Yeah. And then also, like you said, he proposed, and once she kind of saw how the night was going, before she met the mom, she like took off the ring and she was like, you know what? Let's not talk about the proposal now. Let's save this for another time. And
I
he
didn't
puts
like
her
her
on
for that.
blast. You
You
didn't
said, well,
like her?
I didn't like her. I was like, girl, you already in it. Just do it. Because at this
Yeah.
point, you accepted the ring. You said yes. And then, but I
Hmm.
think, I think why I didn't like it too is because she flaunted the ring when it was with, is it
The other girl,
Davita?
Davita. Yeah.
Davita. She
Hmm.
flaunted the ring in front of Lorenzo's ex. She was like,
Hmm.
and I'm mad, girl.
I got the ring.
I got the
Look,
ring, girl.
look. She was like, "Oh, it used to be a race to get this man to the altar. Well, tell him to call off the race. I already
It's
got the ring, boo."
got the ring. But then when it's time to meet mom, put the ring,
I mean,
put
let
the
me put
ring
it in
on.
my
And so
purse.
it's like, girl, you can't be wishy washy. Like,
Exactly. Make up your mind.
which one is it gonna be? So I was like, I ain't like Patrice for being wishy washy. You either gonna be
And
either
and he
one,
was like,
right?
"Oh, it's fine. Everybody, give it up for my fiance. She said yes, and she over here like, did you just?" You just told everybody.
You know how you get secondhand embarrassment? I got secondhand embarrassment from that. I was like, no, Lorenzo, don't do it. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna like be embarrassed because I could just picture like the crowd kind of parting and it was just like all eyes on her.
Everybody looking at her.
And she just
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh my God, secondhand embarrassment. He just all cheesing and happy, like, come on, girl.
Yeah, he's like, come on, we about to dance. And she looking at his mom, and the mama like, oh no.
Not this bitch. Like,
Nothing.
I'm like, oh my God. I was like,
And it's like you said, the communication in his mind, he was like, oh, there's nothing wrong. It's going to be fine. And he's not reading her cues. He's,
yeah, not at
not.
all. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no social cues. They're not reading them at all. So, but that was really good. So I guess before we kind of wrap it up, I think the last thing, the shocker, was the epilogue of. I read like one sentence and I was like, oh no, and it was like it was a lot of shock in it. So I should have said this in the beginning, like spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you haven't read the book, spoiler alert. But another spoiler alert.
We'll talk
Um,
about the ending.
yeah, the fact that when it came out that Davita's child was Lorenzo's, I was like, what? And because he made it seem like, oh, it was so long ago when we did
Yeah.
this, and that was the past, and I've been
It was a
single.
little
Like,
hookup.
it was like a little, and I was like, and then I was like, oh my God. And in the book, you kept writing like he looks just like Lorenzo. He looks just like, so
Mm-hmm.
it was like, so then it made me think like there's no doubt like this is his
That this is,
child.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, all right, well, it's his child, right? And so I'm like, Patrice really probably not gonna want to be with him now. And then epilogue comes, and it's the daddy's child.
Look, surprise!
Surprise! I was like, not the dad having an affair. The dad is having an affair with the son's ex-girlfriend.
Laying it low and spread it wide.
And not only that, it seems as if it's the culture of the pack where
Mm-hmm.
she was raised to cater to men in the pack. I mean, I guess
The
that's kind of
alpha.
the alpha man. And so it's like it's the culture of it. But I also
Mm-hmm.
want to know, like, I feel like mom knows. Like in my mind, I feel like mom knows like this is just how
She
the
probably
culture
do.
is. And then
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she probably knows, right? Like she probably don't know the extent of it, but she knows, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like she just goes on because even I feel like even when they was in the dining room talking, that mom sometimes is just in denial. Like she's gonna say things because this is what I want, even though it doesn't
Yeah.
make no damn sense. Like you're saying
None at
all of
all.
these bad things about Patrice when Patrice just saved y'all, and she did, and that she went back for Lorenzo, so she's not
Okay.
selfish, but you're just saying all these things because you just don't want Lorenzo to be with her, whatever.
You
But
want what you want. And a lot of parents are
yeah,
like that.
hmm
There's talk about generational curses. For some women, some moms, no one will ever be good enough for their son.
right. That's what it was given. Yeah, but I can't believe like the child is not only it's not his, but it's his dad's child. So
And then I also mentioned the book. Lorenzo was the spitting image of his father. So it's like,
right. You did. So then it clicked. It was like, oh, that's why it looked like that. I mean, it was a lot of surprise. That was one surprise. Then there was a lot of surprises too with the Hares and their mother. Now, in the first book, I felt like, and it's been a while, but I felt like the mother was presented as like just like the
dead.
grandmother was, like, a great
Mhm.
person,
Rest in
someone,
peace.
rest in peace, someone who we admire, we loved, we looked up to, who just had an early ending. And then this book is like, oh, hold up, wait a minute. Mom was very much an evil person. Like, wasn't. So I just want to know what the dynamic, like, but is she supposed to be evil or is she just supposed to have, I don't know. Like, I read it as evil, but maybe it may be more to it than that.
Yes, she is evil.
Okay, she is evil. Okay.
Oh, I thought another inspiration for this book, Scandal, Olivia Pope and her mom. Like I was like, I wanted to do something similar where it's like we talk about the
Oh,
mom and we always believe that she's dead, but she's not dead. And kind of the same way like Olivia Pope's mom was this assassin. Same thing with their mom, Ruby.
oh, yo, that is definitely a trope from Olivia Pope Because I feel like
Mhm.
for the longest, it's the same thing. For the longest, we thought Olivia
Mhm.
mom was like, I think
Dead.
Olivia was always mad at her dad because of her mom, and we thought Olivia's mom was like this amazing person, and her mom wasn't.
Yes. And again, experiences. So to also kind of comparison, Patrice was close to the grandmother. Amina was close to the mom. And if you kind of go back on the first book, Patrice paints this picture of grandma as this, certain way, whereas Amina, grandma told her she gonna end up either dead and in jail. So she looked at grandma a different way. But for her mother was, this beautiful saint. But for Patrice, she couldn't stand her mother. And so
Hmm.
this is also kind of goes back with experiences, being in the same household, but having an entirely different experience with someone. And also with the mom, like I kind of came up, I was inspired. I can't remember what I was reading, that she had this gift basically that she could make men do whatever she wanted with just her
Hmm.
touch. She had a touch that would just turn men crazy, had them cheating on their wives
Hmm.
and spending their money. And I was like, I could just imagine if you had a woman who had this gift, who wouldn't use it to their, to their advantage?
Their
Who wouldn't
advantage,
date
yeah.
presidents and millionaires and politicians? And that was kind of like the backstory where I had for her mom that, she had this crazy power that she could
Hmm.
control men. And so she used it for money. People paid her to take out powerful people
Right.
in the culture back then. And so she became the Black Widow Witch of the '90s. That was also one thing I liked to throw in there because I think it was Lorenzo's mother that was like, "Oh, my private investigator, we know about you,
Yeah,
baby."
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's what I was gonna bring up too. Like, I like how you just said, because I didn't think about it that way. And again, I can't remember everything from the first book, but
Mhm.
maybe that's where I got the impression from the mom. The mom was like this great figure
From
because
Amina.
Amina
Love
perceived
the
her
mom.
mom to be that. And you're right.
Hmm.
Anytime we hear about grand or grandmother being this great person, is from
It's from
Patrice.
Patrice. Yeah.
Patrice is our Yolanda. Yolanda too has a
Hmm.
good
Good memories
perception
of Grand.
of grandmother. But Amina's memory of grandmother in that dream sequence when they were trapped in the web was
Hmm.
Amina was thinking grandmother was chastising her and being mean towards her or kind of judging her in a way.
Hmm.
Um, but all of that to say is that I never thought about it like that, but that's a good way now, like to see
Different
it that
experiences.
way. And then, but yeah, I was gonna bring up too, like mom, the Lorenzo's mom was
Hmm.
saying, "Oh, I know about your mom, Patrice, how she was the voodoo, mistress or like the Black Widow, and she did all
Hmm.
these things." And but we didn't get to see what Patrice's reaction was to that was. I don't remember Patrice really responding much to that. Like I feel like she probably just was like, "You
You
don't
don't know
know my
nothing about it.
mom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
You
don't
kind
know
of
nothing
just
about my
gotta
mom."
shrug it off.
But
Yeah.
she never was. But we don't know how Patrice saw her mom. Like, does Patrice know her mom is evil, or does Patrice? Yeah, we don't know.
You,
So that's something we got to figure
you got it.
out.
Well, in the first book, her mom kind of had like a little confrontation, but I can definitely say with the next book, the mom is going to be even front and
Wait, what happened?
center.
In the first book, mom was. It was mentioned.
Um, Hurricane Katrina, the mom tried to overthrow the grandmother and steal their family's powers.
Oh right,
And but because this demon convinced her to do so, but it kind of backfired on her, and that's what killed her. That's what set off Hurricane
right,
Katrina
right,
and left them
right.
stranded.
But I
And
feel.
then
Mhm, go ahead.
this book, like I said, the last chapter,
Hmm.
thinking of the ending in mind, I was like, okay, I wanted the mom to be behind everything. I wanted
Yeah,
her. She
that
had
was
been just in
crazy.
the shadows, putting all the shit together, getting all the right people together, and I was like, this is just gonna make the ending fire and make you okay. I can't wait to see them really square off and face this mom, and it
Yeah.
also led up to her resurrection.
Cause she even put the stuff together with the Boykin Manor,
Hmm.
right? Like going back
Hmm.
to Hallie and all of that stuff, and Yeah, you really did piece it together there. And then yeah, I feel like it was a good surprise for me because I think even in that first book when they did say that, either one, I kind of forgot about that, and
Hmm.
two, I felt like when you described it, and maybe it was just my interpretation, that I never
Hmm.
still thought that mom was purely evil. That I felt like maybe something happened where she was, kind of like Amina, right? Like Amina had a
Hmm.
deal with the devil.
Misunderstood.
Right,
Yeah.
misunderstood because Amina
Okay.
had a deal, but Amina's not evil, but she was
Hmm.
into some dark and evil stuff, right?
Hmm.
So that's how I kind of picture mom was.
I
But
am glad
mom,
that you. Yeah,
yeah, but mom
I'm
never
glad
was.
you touched on that because I mean that is the thing. That is the thing. I shouldn't say that she's purely evil because great villains, you can kind of see their viewpoint. You can kind of understand their
And I
pain.
can't wait to see that,
Yeah,
right? I can't
yeah, yeah.
but for right now, honestly, even no matter what the viewpoint is at this point, it's because of
Hmm.
how she orchestrated everything in this book, she is evil.
Yeah,
But
she's a villain.
even though I'm pretty sure she has a story of how she got there, which I'm pretty sure will be very interesting of how she did that, because you have to have had such a powerful story to be able to turn on your daughters, like the people that you gave birth to. So,
Hmm.
but we'll see. I guess we'll see because I'm
Book three, Curse of the
book
Shadow.
3, we'll see,
Yeah.
because it's so much more in store. It was this book, Chef Kiss. It was really good. It was really good. So much. We could have keep going for hours. It was a lot to unpack, but I think we did a good job of
Yeah, I
unpacking
think I think we got most of everything.
a
I guess.
lot of stuff. Yeah. I guess I can say real quick because we didn't talk about Michaela much, but I can say that I'm also
Hmm.
glad that we got to see Michaela break into her powers more in
Hmm.
this book, and her being the youngest, and that she had I like the touch of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, like she had
Talking cat.
her talking cat, and she was able to kind of come into her powers more, and because she is naive, she did things that again locked into her mother, and it touched
Hmm.
on some of her
One and a
insecurities.
mother. Yeah.
Hmm. Again, a ghost from a past, right? So
Hmm.
all of that is really amazing, and so great read, great book. Make sure if you haven't that you go and get Clairvoyant Voodoo
Go to
Vixens
Kindle now.
2. It is on Amazon. Pick it up hard copy, or you can do audiobook. It's on Kindle if you like. I like to have a hard copy book, but Kindle is
Feel
cute
it, touch
too.
it.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm also like, where's the audiobook? We need an audio. How you get into audiobooks? Because
That's what I'm working on. That's what whenever I do that, I'm gonna definitely do the first book as well.
mm-hmm,
That's my next project. Definitely get it for all three books. Steady writing the third book now.
mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a banger. And just to go back, we were saying with the epilogue with Lorenzo and his father, and it's gonna be more of that. It's gonna be more of that. It's
All right.
definitely gonna be go back to his family drama. Him and Patrice are eventually gonna get back together, and you're gonna
They
kind of
are.
see the both of them step
We
into
gonna get
their
to see that.
powers. The
We be
both of them
rooting for
step
Black
up.
love.
We rooting for Black Love, baby. But I was like, for the second book, I gotta put a little spice in their relationship.
Yeah, it was definitely good, and I like how you said, I could have wrote it where she went to Jamaica and then she had to just come back, but you wrote it
Hmm.
where she left, and it was so dramatic of how she left and why she left, and so I love all of that, and I even like the little sidekick friend with the colorful wigs.
Narda, yes,
She was good. What's her name again?
Narda.
Narda, yeah, Narda was good, like really good. So before we end, just let me know, how do you plan on? Usually I say, how do you plan on pouring it up into the next week? But I'm just saying,
Hmm.
how are you planning on pouring it up into this franchise, into your new works? You also let them know that you have more than just the Voodoo Vixen series. You have
Yes,
other books in the works. So just let us know what's out there, and also how you plan on to continue to pour it up. Like, let us know.
yes. Well, I kind of think of all my books as kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I consider all of my books, they're all in the same universe. So you have the Sisters, the Voodoo Vixen series. You also have the Saga of the Sons, my first book, Book of the Anointed and Book of the Weeping Prophet. If you love vampires, if you love young adult, Harry Potter, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if you love young adult stories, that's for you. And then I have Smite. which is my Archangel series. It's also another romance with Archangel. If you love James Bond,
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones, with a little romance, that's for you. I think you know a lot of people who, if you're waiting for the next Conjure series, you should definitely go to Smite. It's gonna pique your interest. It's a time travel story to the Harlem Renaissance, and so it's a lot of good stuff in that too. So, like I said, it's all a shared universe, and if you read all of my books, you'll realize like you didn't catch it because you haven't read the Vampire series.
Okay.
The vampires in the book, they're from my Anointed series. So
You
they're
know, I was
characters
just
in my
thinking
other
that when
series.
you said vampires, I was like, "Oh, you
Hmm.
wrote about vampires before," but yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't catch it. Yeah.
they're characters in this book. And as you continue to read, you're going to see how all the characters from my different stories hop in and out the books until eventually I want to have one book where they're all in the same
Come on
book
now.
going
Come
ham. It's going
on.
to be a team up. It's going to be
Come
a team
on.
up. Avengers who? Avengers what?
It's
So you
giving
guys just have
Avengers.
to you guys have to stay tuned. Like she mentioned, go to Amazon, look me up. JMOON, J Moon. Check out all my books. I have what? One, two,
Count them up. Count
six
them up.
now.
Count
I
them
have
up.
like six
Six.
now.
Come
Book of the
on. Six
Anointed, Book of the
books.
Weekend Prophets, Conjure, Clairvoyant, and Smite. So I have five. Yeah, I have five books. Curse of the Shadow, which is the third book in this Voodoo Vixen series. It's going to be coming soon. And I've even started to write the fourth book. It's going to be tentatively titled Call of the Ancestors.
Okay.
And so, like I told you before, specifically with the Voodoo Vixens, with these sisters, I already have like 6 or 7 books planned out with their
Hmm.
their story arc. And honestly, I can write them forever, especially since people love the story. So I'd
Yeah.
love to give it to y'all.
Thanks, thanks. Do you have any book tours or anything coming up? Like the little you go to book
I do.
conferences or anything people
Yes,
can kind of pop in and see you in person and
yes.
real and physical?
Make sure you check out my TikTok, J Moon Writes, my Instagram, J Moon Writes, and also my website. I will be at the Black Author Expo in Woodbridge, Virginia. I believe that's April 30th next
Oh,
month.
okay. That's coming up.
So
All right.
yeah, it's coming up. I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be hustling books,
And what
and
part of
I'm
it? That's
also
in Woodbridge or where?
yes, and
Woodbridge? Okay, that's not too far. All right, for the
yeah.
DMV folks, it's not too
Come
far.
on. Come on now.
Yeah.
Get in your car. Come
Get
get
your
a good
girl.
book.
We're gonna have to
I'm
do a
gonna be
little
on the
carpool.
stage.
We're gonna skirt
Okay.
skirt. We're gonna skirt the book
Nice little
the
trip.
book little I don't know, like they're called like book tours or book what is a good word for it? What is they're usually called
Expos,
book
signings.
expos and signings.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
I like the one that we went to, the Halloween one was like actually
hmm
fun. So
The
yeah,
horror
and then
conference.
and I've seen you post some on your page before. They always look really interesting. That you can meet different people and different backgrounds and just have
Oh
like a good
yeah.
networking experience. So
Yeah, I go to a lot of conventions as well. Awesome Con, Blur Con is my favorite. If you're black and you're
that's
in
what
the
I was
nerdy
looking for.
space.
Convention.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the word.
conventions, yeah.
Yeah, expo.
I'm out there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
selling the books, and sometimes I got on my costumes too, y'all. So y'all definitely come
Check
on
it
out and
out.
check it
Check
out.
it out. All right.
Yes,
So I like how you're pouring it up. It looks like you got some things lined up. You continue to write. I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast. It was so much
yes,
fun. I was so
it was
excited.
fun.
I'm glad that you came. I got a lot of my answers. I said my answers questions, but a lot of my questions answered because I'm telling you, I was taking notes and everything. But continue to do what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad that
Thank you.
out I know I was one of the people like your aunt, like when is the next one coming, when is it
Um,
so
Let
I'm
me tell
glad
you, that's
that
why I
it's
was
here.
just real quick. I want to shout out to the Moon Squad, the readers. I
Okay,
love y'all. Y'all motivate me. To the people who find my personal Instagram and Facebook and say, "Where is this book coming? I don't see nothing. I haven't heard nothing. When is it coming out?" Thank you so much because it definitely motivated me to keep
yeah, that's
writing.
good. And see, we thought you was quiet, right? But you was out here writing 3 books in one.
Okay, okay. That was why I was like, I wanted the wait to be worth it. I wanted
It
to
was
give you
definitely
the
worth
money.
it. Yeah, it was way definitely way worth the wait. So thank you for the book. Thank you for coming on to the podcast. And For all of you listeners, again, you can check out J Moon Writes. Make sure you go to Amazon. Also check in with Champagne Sunday podcast for all things Champagne Sunday. Check in if you like this. Make sure you comment. I'm gonna have some clips up. Go into the comments. Tell me what you think. Is this something you would like to listen to or read? Again, we're looking for audiobooks. But
come on, it's coming.
we're speaking it out there, right?
Even if I gotta get my little audio equipment.
Mm-hmm. So keep in touch. And with that being said, peace. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Sunday.